Hi guys, welcome to the 10th video of Chess Eddie. So in this video we will talk about checkmate. Checkmate is the most important rule of chess. It is when a piece puts the king in check, but the king cannot move to any square by the others, because all the squares are already guarded by the other side's pieces. So right here on the board we have an example of a checkmate. You can see that the white queen on the coordinate d7 is checking the black king on d8. The queen on d7 is guarded by the king on d6. So in this case, this would be a checkmate. The black king cannot move here on c7, here on e7, here on e8, and here on c8. It cannot move there because all the squares are guarded by the queen. Here, 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 here. The king cannot even take the queen on d7 because it is guarded by the white king on d6. So this is an example of a checkmate. Now I will give you an example. Now I will set up an example of a checkmate, of another checkmate. Okay, so right now we have another example of a checkmate here. And I will give you some time now to figure out which side did the checkmate. You may pause the video if you want. So now, if you said black, you're not right, and white is the one giving checkmate in this situation. So the knight on f7 is checking the king on h8. The king is blocked by its own pawns on g7 and h7. So now the queen, the rest of the pieces aren't really collaborating in this position because black's pieces are not guarding the f7 square where the knight is. So the knight is not being attacked because, for example, if the queen were on e8, black could stop the checkmate by taking the queen on f7, but then they would lose material. So white would have a material advantage, meaning that white has more pieces on the board than black does. So in this case, with the rook on f7 that just captured the queen, it's not checkmate anymore. But since the knight on f7 is on f7 and the queen is on d8, then no black piece is attacking the white knight on f7. So the white knight is checking, and the king is also blocked by its rook on g8. So this is another example of checkmate. So now I will set up another position that is checkmate, and that will be my last example. Okay, so now we have another position, and if the king were here on h8 or the king were here on g8, it would still be checkmate. Here are the reasons why. So right here, if I were to put the king on h8, then probably the previous move of white would have been maybe the bishop was on h2, and then it probably moved on e5 to checkmate the black king. So in this situation, the black king cannot move on h7 because it is guarded. The h7 square is guarded by the h6 white king. The black king cannot go to g7 because it is guarded by the white bishop on e5, and it is also guarded by the king on h6. And the last square that the king must go to is g8, but it still cannot go there because of the bishop on e6. So this would be another example of checkmate. And if the king were on g8, in this case, the king may not go on h7 because the king is attacking that square already. The black king may not go to g7 because it is attacked. The square is already guarded by the bishop on g7, on e5, sorry, and it is also guarded by the king on h6. The king cannot also go to h8 because it is already, the square is already guarded by the bishop on e5. It cannot go here because of the knight, and it cannot go here because of the bishop on e6. So on either h8 or g8, the king is still checkmated. So now I'm gonna set up my last puzzle or tactic for you to solve, and it'll be a really simple tactic, and you will you may pause the video to solve it. So I'll be right back and I will set it up. Okay, so I'm back and I set up this simple checkmate, and for you to solve it, you may take a while, and if you're a beginner, you may take a while, maybe a minute or two to solve it if you're trying to figure out how to do a checkmate in a real life situation. And yeah, you may pause the video now and I'll give you more time in the video right now. So I'll just wait for about 10 seconds. Okay, so I'm assuming that you maybe solved the tactic, and the solution is this. So the queen, the white queen on a7, can either go on d7 to checkmate the white king. So this is basically, this is the same position that I gave you at the very beginning of the video, and I was just trying to find out if you were going to remember. So the queen on d7 is checkmating the king because the king cannot go into any squares, as I said at the beginning. And the queen, meanwhile, can also go to d7 to checkmate, but it can also go to b8 and a8. So let's check a8 first. So a8, it is the black king is checkmated because it may not go to c8 or e8. So it may not go to those two squares because those two squares are already guarded by the queen on a8, which is guarding this whole row. And the black king cannot also go to c7, d7, or e7 by the white king on d6. So that is how the queen a8 move works. So same thing with the queen b8 move. and it's still checkmates the king the same way. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you solved that last puzzle. And if you didn't, it's fine. Just keep on practicing checkmate. And yeah, that's it. So I'll see you next time. And this was the chess basics last video. So yeah, subscribe to my channel and like this video. Bye.